Hey, it's Terry with Your Coach here on day 6 of our 20 days of turning obstacles into opportunities. And many of us are finding a lot of obstacles, right? Many obstacles in this year. But did you know that before you were 2 years old, you decided whether the world and the people in your world could be trusted or not? Isn't that amazing? When I found that out, it led me to a whole study of the psychosocial stages of development, which start in infancy, where you decide between trust versus mistrust, and you work all the way out till you die. So the original 8 stages of development, psychosocial development, which means how my mind relates to the people around me, was developed by Eric Erickson long ago, with lots of really good stuff behind it. But when I figured that out and I looked at each stage, infancy, toddler, early childhood, middle, late childhood, early adult, adolescence, I realized, I needed to make this into like a bullseye because every stage of our lives affects the other stages all the way out. And for me, what was really helpful was I found this out when my kids were a range of ages. And oftentimes it said that, having kids doesn't come with an operation manual. But I tell you what, learning these stages and what crisis, what decision point, what was happening in each stage of development just peeled off all the layers of what, there's so much out there about what your kids are supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be saying, where they're supposed to be going, what they're supposed to be watching and wearing. And it just peeled all that extraneous stuff off and got me down to what is this kid really going through right now? And how can I help them do that? And then surprisingly, what am I going through? I'm still in stages of development, which quite frankly was a relief because I was under the impression that I was supposed to be fully developed, fully actualized, fully realized human, or I wasn't going to be a worthy parent. So most of you who are parents right now are in your middle adulthood stage where you're deciding the crisis for you is, am I going to stagnate or am I going to generate? In other words, am I going to stay in a life that may not work for me, a job, a home, whatever, or am I going to practice growing myself? And that's a really scary stage in America, I think, especially in our Western culture, because we have all these suppositions. If I get the house, if I get the car, if I get the kids, if I get the degree, if I get the job, if I get the retirement, all this stuff that is supposed to mean that we are adults and we're fully realized. And you know as well as I do, people who have all of those things and who are not happy and who are not realized. So I shared with you a little bit about how I bought my house that turned into a bed and breakfast. Well, before I decided to turn it into a bed and breakfast, I moved into it to redo it because it had been unoccupied for a few years. So it was just like this big old house, right? And I was staying in this bedroom with all this flowery wallpaper, and a mouse would scratch at night, and I was all by myself, which is the first time that had happened maybe in my whole life. I'd always had a house full. I belonged to a house full of kids I was born into. I never lived without a roommate. Then I got married. Then I had kids. It was all that stuff. So here I was huddled up in this middle stage of development, middle adulthood. I didn't really know about that yet. And it was like my friend had said to me walking one time, we were walking, I'll never forget it. And I was going through all this agony. And she said, what's the worst thing that could happen? I said, the worst thing that could happen was that I could get divorced. Not that I would die. Interestingly enough, I just had it in my head. It took me a long time to decide to get married because once I got married, I was going to stay married. So this marriage was not working, which was devastating, heartbreaking. But I would rather have died really than have gotten divorced. That's how I felt about it. And a lot of that had to do with me, but a lot of it had to do with not wanting to hurt my kids. I guess I thought me dying wouldn't hurt them. I don't know what I was thinking. But when she said that, it was like, what? There could be. And then she said, well, what about after that? I said, the worst thing that could happen was I could get divorced. And she said, well, what about after that? I had never occurred to me to think of an after that. Okay, so I would lay in this bedroom not knowing which way was up, not knowing what to do. And it just so happened that a friend of mine whose husband is in the book business had all these extra first copies of books that couldn't be sold that he gets, you know. And in this pile of books that she said, go through these books, see if you want any, was one called Excuse Me, Your Life is Now. And it was written by Doreen Banachek, and it's just about, you know, stepping forward into what you think life is calling you and what you want, and things that were foreign to me at that point. And so at the end of the book, she said, you know, I'm a life coach, and if you need me, call me, because that was way before all the internet and all that. And so she said, if you need me, call me. And so I called her up. She's in one of the M states, Michigan, Minnesota, something like that. And I said, hey, I read your book and it was great and it really helped me a lot. And I think I need a life coach, but what is that really? That tells you how long ago that was, right? I didn't know what a life coach was. So she told me. And so I began to work with her. And that helped me in this progression out of stagnation. Because if the crisis is between generativity and stagnation, I'm telling you, I was ready to stagnate into the life I had built, into the life I had gotten used to. Even though if I had been honest with myself, which I totally was not, I would have said, this isn't working, right? So, and the reason is partly is because, in great part because of my kids, because the key to change is to let go of fear, as Alan Cohen said. And so I was so fearful. My kids, oh, if their family breaks up, what's going to happen? They're going to go on drugs. They're going to be promiscuous. I'm going to ruin their lives. You know, all that fear stuff. And the fact of the matter is, we ended up getting divorced, but their family did not break up. I mean, their dad and I were very close. We co-parent. We're close with our kids and our grandkids. So all those fears and suppositions, because that was the only thing I knew, was that it was a horrible, horrible thing. I mean, really, who walks up the aisle thinking they're going to get divorced? Not many people. It just, you know. So that was my big leap into generativity, really. And hey, just because I'm saying that was my leap, don't think that, oh, if I'm married, that means that to grow I have to get divorced, or if I'm single, I have to get married. It doesn't mean any of that. All it means is we have laid the basis so far in the first 5 days of what's going on here. Now you have to bring it down to what's going on out here. Your psychosocial, your mind as it relates to the people around you, relationships, okay? So today, I would like for you, if the obstacle is stagnation, I would like for you to take a look at the things in your life that might not be working. And you don't have to do anything about them, okay? You don't have to be afraid. Just take a look. In other words, what is your identity so far? How much stock do you put in the behavior of your own kids, the career choices of your own kids, how good your kids do in sports or academics, how virtuous they are? How much stock do you put into that as your identity, right? Take a look at your own heroes. Who do you love? Who do you emulate? Who do you want to be like? People who are telling you to stay status quo, or people who are inspiring you to open up to life? I don't know the answer to those questions because I'm not an expert on your life, but you certainly are, even if you don't know it. And so today, the obstacle is stagnation. In your life, the opportunity is generativity. And how do we do that? Okay. If you haven't read my book, you can get it on the website at yarcoach.com. You can click on it. If you don't know what stage of life you're in, psychosocial development stages of life are in that book. And they're very simple, they're very easy, and they're so revealing. They're life-changing, actually. You can just kind of identify, where am I in life right now? What is it that I'm trying to decide and go through? Happy day 6. I'm going to see you tomorrow on day 7. And until then, thanks for being here and take really good care of yourself. Bye for now.